Alright, so we've got 3 steaks here. You can tell that they're all about 2 fingers thick. I normally don't like the steaks this thin because if it doesn't stand on its edge, it's a stir fry. In this case, it came pre-cut. You can tell I chose those with the largest area of spinalis, and that's good, okay, because that's the cap. That's the tastiest part. Here, the eye fillet, I know connoisseurs love it. It's just too tough, and we all know from experience it's the cap that's tasty, the bit of fat there that's good for your heart as well. So these have been sitting in the fridge overnight. Just some pink Himalayan salt on each side, rub it in, and what happens is the salt stays on the surface at first, and then it draws the juices from the steak up. It dilutes the salt, and then it gets pulled back in. The movement of that water causes the fibers to explode, and if your fridge is a dehumidifying fridge, you see that the surface of the steaks are really dry. This allows you to super crust the steaks. So when you brown your steaks, you know, some textbooks say a high smoking point vegetable oil, but we know vegetable oil is poison. My personal favorite is to use beef tallow. I ordered these specially from Tasmania. It's got a much higher smoking point. You're using beef fat to cook your steaks, so it goes quite well together. You can use butter as a finisher later, or when you turn the heat down, you can then use the brown butter method, which we may or may not explore tonight. And but we're gonna use beef tallow for this. Yeah. So you can see that I've put the induction cooker to 240. This gets really hot really quick. This is cast iron with a ceramic coating. It's good for this style of cooking. In fact, I bought it specially just for steaks. And you can see that the tallow is very solid at room temperature. And this is from the fridge. That's fine. In terms of your steaks though, because our steaks here are so thin, they are no more than 2 fingers thick, you do not have to leave them out. You want them cold from the fridge, so that there's a temperature buffer. Otherwise, by the time you get a crust, your steaks on the inside will be overcooked. Now, if your steak is thick enough, 3 fingers thick, okay, you might want to take it to temp, leave it out of the fridge for about 30 minutes because it's too cold. Yeah, but in this case, the steaks are quite thin, so you want it cold from the fridge to have a temperature buffer. So it's a bit more forgiving. Okay. Should you just leave it on the pan for too long. So I just randomly pick a steak. The tallow is smoking. With your hand, you can put it there. Rub it around to get some oil on the bottom. You want the heat to get through by conduction, not convection, okay? So this is 240. I'm counting in my mind now, about 30 seconds. I will flip it constantly again because it's a thinner steak. I don't want too much heat penetration. I just want the crust to form on the surface, and I want to avoid overcooking the steak. And you can see just about 30 seconds, we've already got an incredible sear. Number 1, the pan is really hot. Number 2, dry brining overnight does that for you. The enemy of crust is moisture. So the drier the surface of your steaks, the better the crust, the faster the crust as well. Now that's about 30 seconds. I move it about. Again, I want good contact. We're cooking by conduction, not convection. You can judge the doneness from the side anyway when you look at the edge of the steak. You know that's just on the surface, yeah? So Andrew asked, how do I know when it's done? It's barely done, right? You can see that it's really raw in the middle and it's just crusting on the surface, okay? So there is a rule that for steaks, you can test the doneness by how hard or soft it feels. If you put your index to your thumb, check your thenar muscle, just touch lightly. That's rare. Middle finger, that's medium rare. 4th finger, medium well. Last finger, you should go to hell because you should never cook a steak to well done. Yeah, medium rare, so rare, medium well, go to hell. Okay, that's the way I say it. So you keep flipping, and you can check the texture of the steak. Right, it's very hard crust. It's a very hard crust, and it's probably feeling a bit cooked on the inside. So again, you go by the softness. Bear in mind that rule works for fresh steak. This has been dry brine. So on my part, once I get the crust I want, and you can see again, it's kind of raw because it's still red on the outside. Once I get the crust I like, you flip your stick around, make sure you sear all the edges, and I'm going to let this sit because there'll be a lot of latent heat they will transfer, okay? So the edge is good. This edge is good. Can you see it's nice and brown now? It browns really quick because we let it dry brine overnight. Turn it again, let it sear. Surface area is flavor, the Maillard reaction is flavor, so the more browning you get, the better. Yep, you can see all edges are actually quite nicely brown now for just a few seconds, and that's what the dry brining does for you. At this point, we'll just put it on the plate and let it sit. Look at that beautiful crust. It's amazing. What do? You should just cover this with some foil, right? Or if you want to save on the foil, just leave it in the microwave. Let it sit for 5 minutes. So when you go to a steakhouse and you order your steak, you tell them medium rare, medium well, whatever it is. The first thing you should do when they put your steak on the table is to cut on the steak down in the middle in half and look at the doneness. If that's not the doneness you want, you tell them to take it back. It's just like tasting a bottle of wine. If it's not what you expected, if you don't like it, you just send it back without apology, and they should understand and do it straight away. If you have to even explain yourself, you do not go back there a second time. You should just walk out now because they are not fit to cook for you. So the steak has sat in the microwave or any kind of warm sheltered place for about 5 minutes. You notice that there are no juices around the steak. If we lifted the steak from the bottom, just a little bit, that's more a bit like oil, okay? You can tell the doneness now. The muscles have relaxed, the heat has dissipated, and this will be rare. Remember, rare, medium well, and then you go to hell, okay? So this definitely feels rare. Yep, let's cut it down the middle, right? Down the middle of the eye fillet, because that's the thicker part, okay? So this steak is blue, which is fine by me. We can butter base, we can use other means of making it like a medium rare, but this is quite fine. Andrew and I are actually gonna taste this now. And for the sake of, we're just gonna taste it on its own. And we're gonna try it with some finishing oil and finishing salt. Come, Andrew.
Come. No worries. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Okay, cheers. It doesn't taste raw. It's just tender, melts in your mouth. It's a bit salted because of the pink salt that I put. I haven't put any finishing oil or finishing salt. But for the remainder of the steak, okay, we're gonna put some finishing oil and finishing salt. And you might be like, wow, this is so raw. No, it's not. If you eat sashimi, if you eat steak tartare or some carpaccio or whatever, ceviche or whatever it is, stuff is raw anyway, right? So I personally like cold ram steak. This is garlic and onion, but the version that's just garlic, to me, I feel is the best. Yep, just drizzle your oil on. Most restaurants will do that, and it's so nice. They put oil. Your finishing salt, I use Herbamia, comes from France, and it's got organic vegetables, blah blah blah, that sort of stuff.
That was already good. That was very good.
Yep, on its own it was already really good, but now with the finishing oil and salt, Andrew, try.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you. Listening. Cheers. Yeah. That oil and salt.
The finishing oil and salt gives you the most flavor. And in some steakhouses, when they cook, say, a bistecca alla Fiorentina, they don't even season the steak. They char it rare, they slice it, then they pour on the olive oil, and they use flaky sea salt. Something like Maldon's would be okay. And that's how they enjoy the steak, with the finishing oil and finishing salt. They don't even season it beforehand. But a good piece of beef should speak for itself. There's no need for fancy marinades, all that sort of stuff. If you're doing barbecue, it's different. But if you just want to enjoy the steak in its purity, this would be it.